Welcome to Real Bass Lessons for another edition of Jazz. Today I'm going to deal with rhythm changes. I'm going to use the chord changes for rhythm changes to teach some jazz language. Now, rhythm changes in general can be a real hard song form to keep track of, but we're not going to deal with that today. I've done a couple lessons on it, and I'm sure I will in the future. What I want to deal with today is learning some jazz language, quarter note jazz language, the walking bass line. I've also taught some fundamentals on this, so I'm going to kind of jump into the fundamentals, but I'm going to go a little bit further. When I say jazz language, I mean, what are some of the licks and phrases and lines that sound great, that we've heard a million times and we all love them? Well, again, we can start with just playing the roots, and that sounds cool. And I recommend you do that. If you don't know the chord changes, you need to study them and learn them. Now, I'm going to assume you can do that, but I must tell you, learning to play well is not a matter of gaining knowledge. It's a matter of physically repeating a very specific thing over and over enough that you're comfortable enough to play it. And when you have that muscle memory and you have some things that are just, absolutely comfortable under your hands and you can feel them and you've played them a million times, that's when you start to make music. Well, that's what we need to do with some jazz language. I think what I'll do is I'll play a couple of lines out of this book here. This, it's a sight reading book, but really it's just a whole bunch of choruses of rhythm changes, a few different keys. But how do you learn language? Well, you can listen to the record and copy it. Also, here's some great language, though. And I didn't make this stuff up, by the way. This is stuff that I have copied over the years, many, many years, and I play all the time in rhythm changes. I think I'll play a chorus of that now, and then we'll go back and talk it, okay? Let's go to that now. That was pretty cool, huh? Now let's check it out here. For every chord change, I played the root when the chord change happened. Now I played different notes in between. And because this happens to be the first chorus in this book, and there's something like 1,700 measures in here, this one was very simple and basic. It was a lot of root and half-step approach. The first measure, tick-on, boom, bip, bit, root, half-step, root, half-step, root, half-step, root, half-step, root, half-step, root, half-step. Here we go. Sure, that's a very common phrase. Let's learn that. Play it with me. Now we can analyze these, but it's not necessary. Root, third, fifth, half-step going down. Let's just learn that sound. Two, over and over. I know this is simple, but if you can't play a walking bass line and just call these up, you don't have them down. See, let's talk about that again before we go any further. Simple has nothing to do with easy to play. There is nothing easy about a simple bass line. Simple means it's easy to figure out. I know what it is. I can look at it. I can see it. I can analyze it. I can spell it. I can talk it. But playing it accurately over and over and over, that requires repetition. And I'll tell you, a lot of students, I started saying infinite number, no, but many, they just refuse to practice some of these simple fundamentals enough that they then have a solid physical foundation and that creative music can come outside, come out of their hearts, come out, and they can express themselves. That's the big trick. Let's play it again. Real simple little piece of language, architecture, as Ron Carter says. Play with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just a B flat chord that's going to E flat. Again. Good. Now I'm going to go back to the beginning and play just the roots, and then when we get to this measure, I'll play our architecture. Here it comes. Cool. Now, can you get the feel there of how cool that sounded when we did it? Well, you need to learn some little architecture for every measure. Now, the trick is, though, is once you learn this, don't do too much of it. It gets too sort of tongue-tied and too many big words. But it does sound cool when you sneak them in there when you've got little phrases. Here's that second measure. We went from B flat to E flat. It's actually the 6th measure of the song. So it goes. Here's another piece of architecture. Real simple. Root, 5th, 3rd, root. Here's those two together. Let's do it together as a loop. Play along. I've actually had guys say too, Jim, but you've got the book and I don't. Folks, use your ears. I've actually had people ask me on these videos for tab. Hold it now. If you can see what I'm doing, if you can hear what I'm doing, my God, why would you ever need some little visual, little marks on a page? So let's just listen to these phrases and learn them. Here it is again, those two measures. 3, 4. Yes. I think you probably got it now. I should add, we're talking about playing jazz here now. If you're not very good physically at playing the bass, jazz is going to be hard. All music is going to be. But I've actually had people say, Jim, I don't really want to work on the basics. I just want to jump into jazz. Well, that's not really possible. I guess you can do it, but it never sounds very good. So if you haven't practiced your scales, arpeggios, got your finger and hand position down, you better go back and work on that. But this is simple enough that you can learn this architecture right now. Let's do it again, those two measures. 3, 4. Yeah. Good. First 4 measures, nothing but roots, and then these 2 measures of our little memorized bass line. 2, 3, 4. Here it comes. Cool. Now what's on the page here is just root and half step after that. Root, half step, root, 5th, root, 3rd, which is a half step. Let's do that same thing again. And I will do just the roots for the first 4 measures, then our 2 measures we memorize, and then the 2 measures that follows are just roots and half steps. Here we go. Play along. 2, 3, 4. Here it comes. Root, half step, root, half step, root, half step, half step. Cool. We don't have to be creative every minute that we play. As a matter of fact, that often doesn't sound real good. Now, there are players, of course, who are at an advanced enough level that they can manipulate the things they're doing and make it sound creative every second. Most of us have material that we've worked on, that we've learned. It's the language, the classic language, and we just play it, and then we think of, or we feel ways to manipulate it and do some improvisation within the framework of that language. So you must learn some of these, okay? You got to learn them. You can just read them out of the book and memorize them. I have students who learn to play rhythm changes incredibly well just by memorizing a full chorus. 48 measures, yeah, 8, 8, 8, and 8. My goodness, you say that's a lot. Compared to what? What if you practice that 48 measures, this first page here, for 2 hours? You might have it down. What if you did it for 20 hours? Well, of course you'd have it down. What if you actually practice this 2 or 3 hours a day for about 10 days? Ooh, isn't that 20 hours? I think so. What if we did this for 100 hours, just this one page? Now people say, Jim, that's unrealistic. Well, no, it's not. Not for the players who learn to play really well. Imagine practicing this page only for 100 hours. It would become part of your vocabulary forever. That's like this big secret, folks. It's called practice and repetition. It's not a secret, it's just not real popular today. Let's do exactly the same thing. This is the first 8 bars of the song. First 4 bars, we're going to play roots only. Then we play our little 2 measures of architecture that we learned. And then we play 2 measures of root, half step, root, half step. Play with me. 2, 3, 4. Here it is. Now, in this written line, the second chorus starts with a little phrase, a little sort of an architecture piece. Listen to it. Sure, it's like a little quarter note melody. Let me do that real slow so you can see it. 3, 4. Play along with it a few times. I'll loop it a few times at this slow a tempo. And by the way, yes, this is practice. You have to just repeat it over and over and over. You know, students say, this is not a joke. They say, Jim, how long do I need to practice this? I say, till you love it. And they sort of laugh, and I say, no, and then you won't want to stop practicing it. See, we're always looking for quality, not quantity. Quantity most often doesn't sound like quality. So imagine being able to play one chorus, 48 measures. That just sounds incredible. And you can do it so well that you don't have to think about it, and you can just feel your groove in your ears and dynamics, articulation, and listening to the other players. Sometimes people say, well, Jim, yeah, but I need to improvise to follow the other players. No, you're the bass player. You need to lead the way. You need to have your lines down. Let's do that little 4-bar phrase, which is the second A section of the song. Nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, 3, 4. Again, 3, 4. Two, 3, 4. Cool. I was thinking of something while I was playing that. Too many students and teachers, they don't like to repeat stuff during the lesson. It's sort of like, here's what it is, go home and figure it out. No, you just need to repeat it over and over and over. You need to get comfortable with that repetition of that. Just get that sound inside you. And I know this happens. Not only have I seen it, but I know this happens because so many students, in response to these video lessons, they're saying things like, Jim, where's the tab? And I say, just repeat it over and over, you'll learn it. They say, I just can't seem to memorize this stuff. Well, of course you can if you'll repeat it enough. Again, it all comes down to, if you'll just repeat it over and over and over, you'll learn it. And some people say, well, my ears aren't very good. Well, guess how they get better? Do it. They don't get, see, you can't go this direction and then spend a bunch of time over here and expect to go further in this direction. No, if you want your ears to get better, listen to things and copy them. If you want to play better time, listen to good time and play with it. So here we're learning some jazz language. You don't need to study a book. Don't need to learn a chord scale. Don't need to, ask a friend. You don't need to get ideas. No, you just need to listen to some great sounding language. And by the way, you determine if your ear if it sounds good. If this doesn't sound good, can it? Go find something that sounds good. I think it sounds good. But you need to find something that sounds good and just learn that over and over and over and over and over. And yeah, I know all the pitfalls or all of the supposed ones. Jim, I want to do my own thing. Jim, I want to be creative. All of that comes after you learn this language called jazz. I'm going to play the first chorus and then this first 4 bars of this second chorus. And remember, the first chorus, I'm playing roots and half steps. Then I'm playing our little 2-bar phrase that we learned. Then I'm playing roots and half steps. Then I'm playing our 4-bar phrase we just now played. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, a 4. Here's our phrase. Here comes our phrase. Incredible. Now, you know what? I know that's too fast, meaning for some of you, but it sure isn't if you'll just push the little repeat and play button on this thing, make a little loop out of each measure and learn it. 1 measure at a time. I can't tell you, or I'm going to try to tell you, the secret to learning how to play well. It's called patience and persistence. You have to be patient with yourself because you never seem to learn. None of us do as fast as we'd like to. But you have to be persistent because if you get frustrated and go, oh man, I suck, I can't do this, well, you're not going to learn it. And you can't sound good until you've sounded bad for a while. So you just have to do it over and over. Play along with me. Let's do that same exact thing again. How do I remember it? Well, repeat it with me. The first 4 measures, we're going to play roots and half steps. Say that. The first 4 measures, we're going to play roots and half steps. The next 2 measures, we're going to play a memorized line. Next 2 measures, we're going to play our memorized line. Next 2 measures, roots and half steps. And then 4 measures of this memorized line. 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I screwed up. Roots only. 3, 4. Here comes our line. Roots and half steps. Here comes our line. You got the idea? That's how you can learn. If this book will help you, get it. If not, just use your ears. Fired up. I think I'll play that one more time, this whole course, and you can hear it happen, okay? Here we go.